Hey, welcome to the CTO Studio. Today we talk to a friend all the way from South Africa in the studio, Jaco Botha, product manager at Etienne Creates, not Etienne Creates. And we talk about the product management role in a hybrid hardware-software environment. We get into passwords. Listen.
Well, I have a wonderful electronic invention I want you to see.
It looks something like this.
Welcome to the CTO Studio. I'm your host, Etienne de Bruin. The CTO Studio is where we chat with CTOs building amazing products with incredible teams. Have you chatted with a CTO lately? Jaco Botha, welkom by die CTO Studio.
Baie dankie Etienne, lekker om hier te wees.
Het jy gevlieg van Suid-Afrika?
Ja, van Sondag af.
Sondag af, en waar het jy gebly?
By jou.
So, thank you for coming all the way from the motherland.
It's lovely to be here. I'm honored.
Yes, so what I want everyone to know immediately is that you hired me back in the mid-90s.
Yeah, donkey years ago.
And I consider you sort of my first boss.
Well, I'm happy to be that.
Do you remember me?
Of course. You were the best Java programmer we had.
Wow. Hey, can we do a stunned silence?
I think you were the only one, actually.
Oh, you shouldn't have added that. But I did get very involved in HTML, JavaScript, Apache web servers and all that.
You did a great job.
And then we met again about 2-3 years ago. Well, we saw each other intermittently. And then I went to South Africa for 2 months. And met with you for coffee, and I shared
reconnected.
Yeah, and I shared the 7 CTOs vision with you, and
I was immediately very, very interested. So I was in between two jobs, and it really made sense for me to get involved. So I called my my longtime mentor, Koen Bester. And I introduced you guys, and I think it took 5 minutes to set everything up, and we started 7 CTOs in South Africa.
And now we have 2 flourishing forums.
Yeah, it's going well.
So, how disconnected are CTO types in South Africa?
I've been speaking to a few of your CTOs here, and it looks like the same issues are popping up everywhere. The typical CTO is kind of lonely. He's he's part of the C-suite, but he's a little bit. He doesn't really belong there because he comes from a technical background. He didn't do, didn't have a business or a sort of leadership career, if you will, and they all, well, not all of them, but many of them have. They really want to have that seat at the table, but they need to develop it.
Yeah.
So the technical part comes easy, and the people part is more complicated, and it's not as clear cut as the technical side.
And culturally, are they inclined to share and communicate and help? I know as a South African in California, I find that Americans share more easily.
I think South Africans are very friendly in general. I find that, engineers are generally speaking also quite eager to, and most CTOs come from an engineering background. They are quite eager to help, but they sometimes do tend to be a little bit of an individualist in terms of whether South African CTOs are different from American ones. I don't think they're that different. I think that's very very similar from a tech culture point of view.
Yeah, I think the common language is really, there's a universal language I find with software developers, and that is all the tools we use, open source, whether you're in the Microsoft stack or,
Yeah,
I mean, all of us are being programmed by the same
if
behavior.
you ask somebody to help, and there's no hidden agenda, then they'll help you.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's the challenge, right? I find that we as CTO types are naturally skeptical.
Yes. So I think that's why I say if there's no hidden agenda, it's something that something that will be picked up quite quickly.
Yes, and that is when I talk to CTOs, that's the first look on their faces. It's like, what is your agenda?
But that's, I suppose, because we've all been burnt at some point in our lives.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I find that's a difference in South Africa to the US is that the title CTO is not as well known or not as common. CTOs or the CTO types are more likely to be called a director of engineering or a technical director or maybe a development manager. Even some people that belong to some of our members have the title of CIO, which is a little bit uncommon. I guess in the US they're doing a CTO job, but they're called CIO.
Yes, yes.
So they definitely have an external facing business mandate, but
they're called the CIO.
But they're called CIO.
Yeah, or you see CDOs, Chief Digital Officers. I mean, but also in South Africa, a CEO is often referred to as a managing director, right? An MD.
Yes.
Yeah.
So managing director, technical director, and that refers to being a board director, not the same as the American title director, which is just a managerial level.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Yes. So let's talk a little bit about your current role. Maybe we can see how this goes, but we can go back in time. But I know you've played CTO roles. You've founded a company as a CEO founder. Currently, you're in a product management role.
Yes.
And what I'm interested in is how you're integrating this product management concept into, you guys are a hardware company. So tell us a little bit about what you do now and what your role is.
Yeah, so I work for a company called Etion Create. We're part of a listed group.
Not to be confused with Etienne Creates.
ETION.
Okay.
Right. So we're a division of a listed group, and Etion Create is the original design manufacturer leg of the Etion group. So we design and manufacture and then support the whole product life cycle of physical digital products. So this could be something that is used in a mine, gas meter, a headlamp, that's all interconnected with wireless technology, and it's all integrated with the system that operates the turnstile, for instance. So if a miner needs to go down on his shift, then the system will check that he's got all the bits and pieces that he needs to work safely. So those are the type of things.
IoT space.
We're very strongly into the IoT space as well. We have some products that go into cars for driver behavior monitoring and actually management. So we can send messages to the driver to say you're speeding, or
so within your company you have the ability to design the hardware or meet the customer's need for the product. You design it, you manufacture it, you program it, and then you release it.
So traditionally our business model was that we build stuff to spec. So we get a spec from the customer, and then we're very good at executing on that and designing the hardware so that it works the first time. There's a lot of processes involved in making sure that something is designed properly and it actually works when you turn it on the first time. And we get that right, a lot of times. One of the things that Etion Create's very proud of. But what we now, and this is part of my my product management role there. What we're trying to do is within that mandate, understand the market that the customer is in, as well as the customer understands it, or maybe even better, so that we can anticipate demand and actually go and add value to our customers. Our customers are typically systems integrators or actually OEMs of products, and so we need to get so good at understanding the market that we can anticipate the need, and then go to our customers and say, look, what about this? Can we develop this for you? And
is it because it's too expensive to build products that suck?
Well, if you're building a product that you invest in yourself, then you have to be sure that people will want that product.
Okay, so you come in as an investment partner as well, then.
So some of the products we co-invest.
Okay.
Some of them we carry all the investment, but most of the time our customers actually pay us to develop the product, and we then function as the outsourced engineering department.
So they give you the spec. You don't ask any questions. You just build what they want.
Sometimes we also just manufacture. We try not to do that, or we do it only for strategic customers, because we find that when we design something, we know we can easily manufacture it. But when another engineering team designs the product, then oftentimes you have to go through an industrialization phase first to make it manufacturable.
Okay. So I know that you have a passion around passwords. Before we get to passwords, I have a friend who exited his startup as a CTO and was then hired by Google as a product manager.
Yes.
And it kind of reminds me, I think the Google model, the product managers are actually mini-CTOs of whatever product, whether it's Chromecast or, Google Home. And I'm wondering, in your setup, you're a product manager, but are you also functioning sort of as the CTO of your department?
I guess you can see me as a CTO of the department. I don't think you should try and pin me as a CEO of the product, because I have a team, but none of them report into me. So I'm product management typically is more about influence rather than direct control. So that's just, in my current role, I do also have a business development responsibility, and as part of that, I think I operate more as a CTO to our division, although I don't have that title.
Yeah, and so I actually see that a lot, where the product management role is one of influence.
Yeah.
How do you have any tips or any experience in managing through influence, especially when it comes around when it relates to products? I feel like there's a lot of emotions involved, whether it's the engineering team that spent a lot of time doing something, whether it's the customer success that is demanding certain features because otherwise customers are not happy, whether it's the business development who needs certain features before they can sell. I mean, it's just a lot of forces at play.
Yes, you have to juggle a lot of balls. That's for sure. Little, you feel like a what do you call these clowns that juggle the balls? Right?
Eric, are we gonna have to censor the fact that he did this? So how do you bring those people? Do you have to have negotiation skills, or do you defer? Is it your job to just say, hey, you guys figure it out?
No, well, sometimes you do. I mean, I like having teams that can make autonomous decisions. So, I'm a big believer in the sort of agile, lean approach, and I always try to involve the whole team in important directions and so on. You definitely can't be a dictator that tell people what to do. That's not going to go down well with the development team, and it really doesn't go down well with anybody. So you have to be you have to be a bit of a negotiator, but you also have to show leadership. I mean, there are always 10 different ways of doing things, and you have to be on top of your game to be able to say, look, I think this is plan A and this is plan B. Which one do you think we should use as a basis? And then, obviously, when you discuss it with your team and with management and with the sales team and with the finance people, then things change and things get crafted. But if you don't have a basic plan on the table that people can shoot down, then you're just kind of rudderless.
But how do you resist the urge to just tell people, just
with difficulty,
do it?
Yeah, no, it's.
I often feel devalued, and this is my own issue, when I cannot get people to just do it.
Actually, I've not really experienced that a lot at Young Create. I've been in many businesses and I've played many different roles, but I think the team that I've got now is it's a top class team, and everybody's motivated to do their bit.
Do you think
I don't have that problem?
Do you think that so you were the CEO founder of a pretty solid endeavor called Trispin?
Yes, Trispin Technology.
Do you think that your experience of that rocket ship, and the way, I think it ended in a way that wasn't quite what you had hoped for? Just generally.
We never blew out the ceiling.
Yeah. So there came a point where you decided, okay, this isn't worth it anymore.
Yeah. So we found other opportunities. Yeah. We merged with a Canadian company. I spent a few years working in Canada. For also a very, very interesting experience. But in terms of Trispin, we had a team varying from at different times from maybe 8 people to almost double that, and then we went up and down a little bit over time, and that was also an amazing team. But if you have really bright people, then sometimes they have their own ideas, and you have to spend a lot of time to make sure that you're herding the cats.
All I remember about that team was that I wasn't on it.
Yeah, it's a pity. But just imagine if you did join us, where 7 CTOs might not exist today.
Or I would be putting rockets in space.
Yeah, who knows?
Maybe I would have been the one voice at that one meeting that changed everything.
Yeah.
No, I think it's interesting because a lot of people. So as the CEO, you had the executive authority, and you were the boss.
Yes, but
now I know you led through. You weren't an autocrat, or dictator, but you knew that you carry that authority. But now you're in a role where you're not the boss, but you're now leading through non-executive managerial position. And the reason I'm kind of belaboring this is just because I said many product managers, which I think is a role that is so very close to the CTO, are in that position. And so looking for tips and tricks and tools and and tricks of the trade in how to be able to manage products in an excellent way, especially in this hybrid environment.
Look, I can't speak for all the product managers out there, but what I find useful is that having developed a lot of products myself over the years, both hardware and software, I don't have any issues with getting attention from the team, and so there's an inherent trust in that. If you can show up that I've done this, I've got experience on this, and if I have a systems engineer that designs the system, and he's really good, but I can actually contribute to that design. I've done systems engineering myself. I've done development myself. I've done hardware design myself. So that helps me. I'm not sure if that will necessarily help all of the product managers.
But that's an interesting delineation, though, or a juxtaposition is the technical product manager, and I think this is probably why, as an example, Google hires the product manager that actually their teams, whatever that product manager's leading, could probably understands the intricacies of the technology. They've probably been there, done that in some facet of the product. And I can see how if you walk into the room as the product manager, but you are a technical one and your team knows that, you probably command that respect from day one.
Yeah, that's a very easy introduction. I think if you're coming from a purely marketing direction, that might be a bit of a challenge, and I'm sure there are definitely ways in which you can bond that with your technical team, but it's more difficult, and depending on the maturity of the team, it might be impossible.
Well, that I think is a very important point, the maturity of the team, because I remember at the job that you hired me at Nanotech, we were on a project. I forget which one it was, one of the early ones. And we had a product manager in there that the team just couldn't stand. And it was embarrassing how the runaround that and I think the immaturity of the team.
You get all sorts of weird behaviors when essentially the team is boycotting or sabotaging the effort.
Yes, and I saw with my own eyes how this poor guy was trying to work through the Gantt chart, trying to get some estimates, trying to work, I think, in all sincerity with the dev team, and it was embarrassing how, including myself, we were just playing with this guy, and I think you're right. I think it's the maturity of the team, and so in the absence of that respect, I think as a product manager, it's like, what can I do to foster cohesiveness amongst the team so that I can lead?
Yes, I agree.
That's a let's move on look. So let's talk about passwords.
Yeah. So are you a big fan of passwords?
I know that I create a new password every week.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, but the amount of passwords that people need to create and remember is snowballing. So on average, sort of the average internet user has in the region of 25 passwords that they need to manage. But if you're a business user or a tech user, it's more like 200. So, if you're good at remembering 200 unique passwords with uppercase letters, lowercase letters, digits, and not one of them are going to be the same, you're going to have a complete mind blowout. And that's the problem. Is everybody's building these websites in a way that they require a username and a password. And sometimes they don't really need it, but they do it anyway. And then the problem is that people take shortcuts. So, you've probably, like most people, you have some sort of scheme where you have maybe a base password and you append a number to it.
I told you not to tell people that. That was a private conversation.
I think that's like 80% of people I know that do that. And people have, different formulas and so on. And then the problem comes when passwords are derivative of the password, or a hash of the password is stored in a database, and this now gets stolen. Then the hackers have all the time in the world to analyze those hashes, guess passwords, and see, oh, okay, this is the password that this guy used. But then they get billions of records, right? And let's say you've used the same or similar password for Yahoo, and you've used similar password for Gmail and for whatever else. And over time, all of these passwords get, become known. Then hackers can actually write AI programs that predict what your password formula is, and they can actually, within a few guesses. And there's been some really interesting studies this year published about students just doing that,
using predictive analytics or
they're using analytics
machines
to see how frequently are passwords reused, and they find that at least 50, sort of the lower bound is the 50% of people just use one password, or one password with a small delta derivative.
I think the industry's attempt at solving this problem is password managers.
That's one way of doing it, and that's a fairly good attempt.
But it does break down for me, because even though I'm a prolific user of a password manager, I still have 6 or 7 scenarios where I can't just like if I'm on my phone, I have to swipe out, I have to copy and paste.
It's cumbersome. I'll also use password managers. I've used open source ones, I've used commercial ones, and nowadays I use a password manager that has a that you unlock with a token like this. This is one of our products. So should I show it to put it like that, then you can zoom into it. I want to make sure it's up, right side up.
Is this something that you have developed?
Yes, this is my baby. It's been my baby for the last 2 years. So this is called a FIDO token. So FIDO is an initiative by I think there's like 250 companies now in the FIDO Alliance. So we also one of our divisions called Law Trust. It's now a part of Etion. They've recently become a FIDO member, so we're going to be marketing this product through Law Trust. And the
FIDO being
Fast ID Online.
Okay, and is and I think you mentioned Google, and they're all involved in this.
Yeah, so they're big names there.
Okay.
Google, Amazon's a big FIDO user.
Fast what?
Fast ID Online.
Hmm.
So the whole idea.
For the Americans, that is fast.
Fast. Yeah.
Fast ID Online.
So the idea behind FIDO is that instead of having a secret that you share with a website, password or something else, you share a secret, or you prove yourself to a token. So now you have something that a token would be something that you have, and if in this case it has a touch switch, so you can prove to the token that you're a person and not a bot or a Trojan.
So biometric touch.
It's biometric in the sense that it's showing that there is any person, a human being,
Okay.
there, right? We have a next level model of our FIDO token that has a fingerprint reader.
Okay.
So in this case, you prove to the token that you have a registered fingerprint
Okay.
on the token.
So you authenticate yourself to the token.
Then the token does a cryptographic authentication to the website.
Mm.
So there's no password involved. All the server has is a public key of what's on the token, and you can do precious little with that. If that password gets stolen,
Yeah, it changes every time.
the database gets stolen, then it's and the way it authenticates is by sending a challenge to the browser. The browser actually talks to the token, and the token generates a signature on that challenge, sends it back to the website. And the browser also checks that the website, the challenge comes from the correct website. So if there's a man in the middle somewhere, then that will be it'll be detected, and the authentication won't work.
Well, hopefully the SSL will also take care of the man.
Yeah, this only works over SSL, by the way. So you can't even your FIDO authentication doesn't work unless you're having an SSL.
So how do I register my token with the website? Is there a little process you go through?
Yeah, so FIDO has two parts to it. There's an enrollment part, and then there's a authentication part. So when you follow whatever process you go through, create your account, and then typically you so in this case this is a U2F, universal second factor, and there's another FIDO method called UAF, which is essentially intended to replace passwords in the long run. But in both cases, you have an enrollment and you have authentication, and the enrollment needs some way of registering with the website. So
and that's the standard that FIDO all websites will enroll the same way.
Yeah. So right now there are a number of websites that do this. You can use these tokens on your Google Mail account as a second factor, and
so obviously you can lose this.
Yeah, but you can register more than one key as a backup. So you can have, let's say you get two keys, register both keys, but then you store one of them in a safe place.
Oh, okay. Is this maybe a precursor to implanting it?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of ethical
why? Can you
issues around that.
You just have it.
Well, yes. I think I'm not sure if I want that.
Really?
Do you?
I mean,
where would you implant it?
I mean, that's a very personal question.
In your forehead?
No,
little ring in your nose.
You would have to put it somewhere that if you become a really important person, they can't just chop off your arm and go and authenticate you, right? If
if you put it in your head, then chop off your head.
Well, they could quickly get you to the scanner, and then you're in.
Yeah. Look, the other thing that we also we're also pursuing, these type of fingerprint readers are fairly small. So they're good at identifying yourself to a token because it's a one-to-one match. But with some of our business at Etion, we actually get involved in issuing identity cards for a whole country, and there you have millions of people. So the Law Trust acquisition that we did recently, they put their digital certificates on the national ID card in South Africa, and for that you need much better biometric authentication mechanisms. That's my next project now, is to build a secure fingerprint reader.
I often go through this thought experiment in my brain, which is, what if every time I wanted to authenticate myself to a service, that 5 of my friends can be pinged, or their devices, and then if 3 of them just say, yes, I know this guy.
Yeah, the Facebook does that. So when you go to, when you can set up Facebook to, if you lose your password, to ping
some friends,
and they vouch for you.
Oh,
and
I think
get back on it.
Yeah. So I was wondering if there's a combination between blockchain and these 5 friends or 10 friends that if I have a relationship with Eric and I know he wants to authenticate himself to his bank, then somehow I get pinged and it's like, oh, okay, I know.
Yeah.
I mean, but I suppose that could be hacked probably in many different ways.
Yeah, it's a good idea that, it might not be so practical because, your friends might not be online. But it's possible to make it so that 3 of them needs to be online for it to work or whatever.
Yeah, because I think the critical aspect to authenticating myself is to just have other people confirm that I am who I am.
Yes.
And that's that's a social system that works to this day. It's basically a witness to me being who I say I am, confirmed by my friends.
Yeah, well, it's all easy when we're sitting in the same room.
Wow.
Not so easy when we're on opposite ends of the internet.
But that's why I'm wondering, in this world of decentralized trust, if blockchain doesn't somehow fix that, because
there are companies that are trying to do that, and I think they're quite successful. But you're never going to get the centralized, trusted, government or third party to agree that they'll rely on 20 people identifying you, because you could be paying off 20 people to identify you as,
I suppose,
as Johnny Depp or somebody else.
Are we allowed to use Johnny Depp's name? Okay. Johnny Depp, if you're listening. So
I don't know where that came from.
I know. It's very interesting, Jaco. Yeah. So just as we sort of wrap up, you used to fix pinball machines.
Well, I actually ran a pinball company. I, as a student.
To the millennials listening, pinball is.
I'm talking about electromechanical pinballs now.
Where you
the real thing with the flippers and the relays and the big sequencing electromechanical things. They go clacka clacka clacka. So we at Varsity we created a company. It was a close corporation at the time. We had 12 members, and we all pooled, I don't know, 100 rand or something like that. And we bought a couple of these pinball machines. At that time, pinball machines were illegal.
Illegal?
Yes, they were classified as gambling machines. And
welcome to South Africa, people.
And so
gambling machines.
Yeah, so all of the pinball machines were stored up, and we could buy them for relatively cheaply. So we were sort of under the radar. We bought these machines, we put them in our res, and we fixed the coin operating mechanisms.
So you ran pinball. You basically ran.
So it's like a little gaming company. We were operating these pinballs, and then we shared the proceeds with the house committee. So we actually made enough money to have a very nice, very fancy dinner at the end of the year for our 12 members and all their dates.
That's crazy.
That was really a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm stuck on the gambling thing.
But the amazing thing about these pinballs were, there were not that much electronics in them. They had real electromechanical mechanisms and, these massive sequences. So it's like a motor with lots and lots of contacts, and everything was done with relay logic. So, the rules of the game was implemented with relay logic. And, fixing them consisted of going around with a little sandpaper file and cleaning contacts. So, it was good times.
So relay what?
Relay logic. I don't know if anybody knows about
what is that?
It's in, if you think about computers, they use zeros and ones, right? The 0 and 1 is typically represented by some piece of silicon, which can either be in a state of 0 or a 1. But a relay is also binary, so it can either be pulled in or released.
Okay.
So you can have lots of relays, and then you basically build a computer by using relays, and you have latches and or and all of these functions you basically could implement with switches and relays, and that's why it's called relay logic.
That is I need a pinball machine in my house, and I need an arcade. You actually saw one in your house, an arcade.
Yes, I made that. Was one of my holiday projects was to build a MAME machine.
A MAME machine, yeah.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite old school games?
I don't know.
Mine was Galaga.
I used to play a lot
Pac-Man.
of them. Bingo played a lot.
Bingo.
Donkey Kong. All of those games are available on MAME, and you can you can have your retro experience.
Do you think that it should be required reading for today's generation to read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
Absolutely. I think that's I can't see that you can be a real engineer if you don't read that.
I agree. I think we should introduce that as a key part of the interview process.
I think I've read it like 4 or 5 times. It's the 5-part trilogy.
Yes. Okay, Jaco. Well, thanks for joining us, the CTO Studio.
Awesome talking to you.
Yeah, and we'll see you at the conference.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
By the time this airs, the conference would have been incredible. It was great.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Have you chatted with a CTO lately? Hi, thank you for listening to the CTO Studio. If you don't mind, take a quick second and please rate and review the show. It helps us a lot. Go to thectostudio.com for more information on what we're doing at 7 CTOs. We also have a video or two for you that could be a helpful resource for you as you're managing your company. So thank you for listening.